Hello, everybody out there in train world. I hope you're having a pleasant Tuesday afternoon, and I hope you're ready for a new uh, Train Tuesday. So I'm your host, Jim Wiggin, and let's see who we got out there today. We've got a pretty good crowd here. We've got Bob, we've got Christian, Brady, Christopher, Thor from Oklahoma, Anthony from California, Split Rock from Minnesota, and Bob is hailing from New Jersey. Kevin, of course, is in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Hope you're enjoying that humidity out there. Jordan says hello. Chris says hello from Canada, eh? We've got some stuff for you today, all of those fans from Canada. And let's see who else we got. We got Gator, Dave. We got Kyle, Chris, Ryan from Illinois, and Richard coming in from Thornton, Colorado. So great to see everybody. Jim Fisk next door over in Vermont. And we've got Steven in Nebraska. We got Keith in Houston, Texas. And he says it's really humid. Very humid. So here we go. We've got some interesting stuff for you guys today. We have HO scale and we have N scale. We are going to talk a little bit about some 3-bay ribbed hoppers. And those are good for you guys that are modeling anywhere between the 1970s all the way up into the early 2000s. And we've got some Ford trucks that we're going to talk about, both in HO and N scale. And then last but not least, remember we talked about the SEICO box cars. Well, we're going to talk about the N scale versions today. So without any further ado, go ahead and put your hobby knife down, your feet up, grab your favorite beverage, and let's take a look at what we've got going on. We'll do one more shout out to Joseph, Joel, Kevin, Glenn, Mike, Greg, and Sam. And he's coming from PA. So welcome aboard, everybody. We got a great crowd today. We've got some great stuff to show you. Let's get started. Now, in the past, we've been showing you the PDFs. You can see them on the website. But because depending on how you're looking at this on your screen, it could be on a smaller device than, say, a computer or television through YouTube. I went ahead and decided to make these a little bit bigger for you so you can see. So we're going to start with the 3-bay ribbed hoppers. Now, these are available. We're going to be talking about the ready to roll and the N scale versions. So let me go ahead and bring these up. And here we are. Now, again, this card says ready to roll. We're also offering these in N scale. And our first one here is Conrail. So for you guys in the Northeast that model Conrail in the 70s and 80s, these are perfect for you. Now, remember, these have removable coal loads. And even though they are ready to roll, they still have separately applied grab irons. And in N scale, they're going to have metal wheel sets. They're going to have the screw-on bolsters, so they're easy to adjust. And they're also going to have body mount couplers, which we've talked about that many times before. That is something that N-scale guys really, really desire. So here we have the Conrail version. And this would be appropriate for, like I said, late 70s into the 80s. And you can always use these weather these up a little bit and bring them even further into the modern day. So for you guys that are into chassis, you knew this was going to happen. We had to do these in chassis. We did the Baltimore and Ohio versions. And again, this is going to be 1970s into the 80s. Really common on the chassis. So both in ready to roll and N scale. I know the chassis fans are going to be excited about these. Now, for you guys that model 1995 on up into the 2000s, we had to do the BNSF. And again, this is the early BNSF. There's a lot of guys out there modeling the BNSF in this time frame. They're modeling 1995 all the way up to 2005 when they changed their logo. But you'll still see these occasionally out on the road. In today's railroading, taking something to the paint shop, taking it offline and putting it in the paint shop solely to change a logo or a paint is pretty costly. So you're still going to see these on the road. occasionally. The old Circle Cross, as they call it, logo that BNSF had soon after the merger in '95, and continuing on up until about 2005 when they replaced it with the swoosh. So again, they're available and they're ready to roll, and these are also going to be an N scale. So everything I'm showing you on these 3 ribbed cars, even though they say ready to roll, these are our social media cards. These are available in N scale as well. So N scale guys, don't worry. What you're seeing here is available for you too. So here's a classy railroad, Central of Georgia. Now we're going a little bit further back. This is a freight car that would be perfectly happy into the late 50s, into the 60s. You wouldn't see it, at least in this paint scheme, you wouldn't see it much after early 70s. And it's a line that we get some requests for. It's not one that we do a lot of. We don't do a lot of Central Georgia, but we had some requests for this. And guys, I see your questions out there. Try to save those for the end of the show. If you got questions on the product that we're talking about right now, go ahead and put those up there. I'll try to catch them. But as far as like questions, we're going to do that Q&A at the very end of the show. So at the bottom of the show, we're going to take a few questions and see what's on your mind. Norfolk and Western. Again, this is going to be a 60s era freight car. You can go back to late 50s, but into the 60s, certainly not into too far into the 70s. And for something a little bit more modern, and you can tell real easily because it has a website on it, here we're looking at about 2006 or so, Canadian National. So the Canadian National and the BNSF, slightly more modern. These freight cars certainly are still around. They're not quite as popular as they once were. They've slowly been being phased out, but they're still useful. They're still valuable. And of course, coal is still an expensive commodity and needs to be moved. So those are going to be available in both HO and N scale. So for you guys that are modeling coal, and again, these are great, both in HO and N scale. These are great on like a modular layout. Say maybe you do Fremo, whether it be HO or N scale. These will work great for that. If you're in a club, you can certainly do that. And the other thing too, on the HO scale, they're ready to roll. They're available in singles or packs of 4. So it's real easy to build up a really, really big coal train with these. All right. Looks like we got some fans out there of the CN. Harold says, hey, glad you're doing these in CN. Well, Canadian National still is one of our popular roads. So definitely one that we had to do. Split Rock's real happy. He says, nice to see you create paint schemes in the smaller roads like the CFG. Well done. Well, thank you, Split. That is one that we actually did get some requests on. So if you've been using our product suggestion email, we are listening. We're definitely listening on that. So here's something to think about, and this is for both the HO and the N scale guys out there. We focus a lot, especially here today, focus a lot about freight cars and locomotives and things of that nature, but we wouldn't be able to get everything done in the real world without trucks. And so we're happy to offer some Ford C-cab style box vans. Now these trucks were in production for a number of years. They date back to the 60s. They were still being produced as far up into the early 90s, if my memory serves correctly. This was a workhorse that was seen all over the United States and Canada, and probably even down in south of the border. And so what I'm going to show you next are the Ford C box vans that we're doing. And as you can see, they're going to be available in both HO and N scale. So the ready to roll line in HO and then the N scale. Now the thing about these is these look great in both HO and N. They both have clear windows. They have rubber tires. the printing on these in the N scale is just as crisp and sharp as they are in the HO. And so if you've got an industrial complex, if you've got a highway overpass, if you've got a parking lot, if you've got anything to do with some type of non-rail industry or something of that nature, you can definitely fill in the blanks with these trucks. These are extremely useful. And, you know, believe it or not, you still see these occasionally on the road. These are like I said, were in production for years. CB Railroader, yes, you are welcome. N-scale guys have been asking for these. N-scale vehicles is a section that doesn't quite get filled as much as it does in HO and even O-scale. So definitely we wanted to do these for the N-scale guys as well. Now remember, these pre-orders, they're open till the end of the month, which is July 30th. That's a Friday. So if you see any of these trucks that you just got to have, make sure to talk to your dealer before Friday the 30th. Now the first one we've got here is the Santa Fe. Real classic paint scheme. The Santa Fe red, the freight cream color on top of the cab. Very classy looking truck. This would be straight out of the 1960s. This type of paint scheme, this type of setup would be perfect for anybody modeling the Santa Fe in the 1960s. Or, you know, if you're just out west, you might not even be modeling the Santa Fe. It would be a good excuse to purchase one of these because it certainly could be seen in your area. Now here we go, UPS. Now a lot of you guys may be scratching your head and saying, well, UPS doesn't use these. Not anymore. But certainly when they use the logo, if you look carefully, you'll see this is not the modern current logo that UPS is using. This is back a few years ago. And it's quite probable that some of these trucks were eventually painted in this paint scheme. UPS, you know, for you guys that don't know, they do have to have a license, and that's something that Athearn worked on, because in the past, trying to get a UPS truck on your layout was kind of hard. So now we're offering them in both HO and N scale, and these are perfect for you know, you're going to use these mainly in the early 2000s because that website's going to give it away. Could you backdate it to the 1980s? Probably, but it would require a little bit of touch-up. These are pretty much going to be seen in the 2000s, but they are getting rare. So if you've got a smaller layout that's set in a rural area in the mid-2000s, these will work perfect for you. Check out the Delta. Now this is a really cool truck, and this is a really cool paint scheme. Developers really had a lot of fun with this one. It's a really nice truck, and I mean, it's a really eye-catching paint scheme. Certainly would fit just about anywhere on your layout, whether it be on a highway overpass or in a parking lot backed up to one of your industrial warehouses, anything like that. And we did the Western Pacific as well, and check this out. This is more of your 1960s, 1970s. Both offered in HO and N scale. Really classy paint scheme for that truck. We did the Rio Grande as well. And this one here, you're probably looking at 1960s, maybe into the early 1970s. Check out just underneath the quarter window there, it says radio equipped, you know, kind of like what they did with the locomotives of the time. Same thing with the trucks. It was a big deal back before GPS and all of that. These trucks had to be tracked with dispatching to let customers know where their goods were. And a lot of railroads did use trucking in the 60s, starting as far back sometimes into the 50s, but in the 60s especially onward, for less than carload deliveries. So there you go. We got some Rio Grande for both HO and N scale guys. Burlington Northern. We had to do one of these in the Cascade Green. If you've got any books on the Burlington Northern, you'll know that their maintenance away vehicles were either orange or they'd paint them a Cascade green. Later, they went to a white. Just depends on what era. But this era is perfect. 1970s, 1980s, even into the 1990s. Now, Burlington Northern would use these for, hauling heavy tools, heavy parts, things of that nature. Burlington Northern actually had a really wide range of vehicles, everything from high rail pickup trucks all the way to semis. So, again, if you've got a maintenance yard or a small section of your layout that could use a little bit more personality, go ahead and put one of these in there, maybe some tools around it, maybe some crossing signals, things of that nature. It'd be perfect for that. And we did something else too. We are offering these trucks both in HO scale and N scale, the ready to roll HO. We're doing these in just white, just regular white. Think of it as a blank canvas. You can do your own company. You can do your uncle's plumbing shop. You can do your grandfather's radio repair business, whatever you want to do. You can do these. There are many aftermarket decal companies out there that make decals for different trucking companies. Or if you're creative, you can even make your own decals and make up your own companies and such, or your own railroad, whatever you like. But we usually offer these in just an all white version, which is like an undeck, so that you can get creative and do your own thing. There you go, Joel. You can have your working Sander Productions delivery truck. That works great. Let's see what else we've got there. Got some good feedback here on the BN trucks. The BN trucks look like they're going to be pretty popular. Yeah, the BN trucks are really cool. So like I said, these are available for pre-order until Friday, July 30th. And then, once pre-orders close, now remember those UPS trucks are hard to get. The white undecorated trucks, those are hard to get. The pre-orders on those usually go pretty quick. So if you're interested in those ready to roll HO scale Ford C trucks or an N scale as well, then you might want to go ahead and get a pre-order in. Remember the prices that we're talking about, those are MSRP. Your dealer is going to have a different price. So talk to your dealer about that. And you don't want to be that guy at the train show digging through the cardboard box hoping that you can find that undeck or that UPS or that Burlington Northern. Just go ahead and pre-order it now. That just makes life so much easier than trying to find that at the last minute. Okay, so for the N scale guys, now we're just going to talk N scale. And last week we talked about the Genesis SEICO Box Cars. And those box cars were all over the place in the 70s and 80s. And if you're a fan of the 1970s and 80s, even into the 90s, and we're going to show a few that are into the 2000s even. If you're an N scaler that's got a layout that's in any of those eras, you're going to want to pay attention to see what we've got. So first up, we've got the Virginia Central. This is a really nice N-scale box car that's going to have body-mounted couplers, metal wheel sets that work on everything from your code 80 to your code 55 without any problems. If you're building a switching layout, since they've got body-mounted couplers, you're not going to have that problem of the cars getting squished together and kinking up and falling off the rails. With the body-mounted couplers, switching is just so much easier. Now this car here, you're looking at 1970s, early 1980s. This would be, if I were to say 70s, it'd be about 79, and then after that, this would be firmly in place in the 1980s. So here's one of our Prime for Grime cars. It's still got its former road, the Hutchinson Northern, but now it's lettered for ATW. And this was quite common with these cars. You can tell that this is from the late 70s. It's got the yellow circle talking about the wheel sets that had to be tested in 78, 79. You still got the RFID tag on here. So you can definitely tell this is a car from the 70s, but it's got a new owner. And of course, it's been updated. So if you're modeling 1980s, 1990s, this is a great car to have. And as you can see from this illustration here, they're going to be brought to you prime for grime. Now this one says Genesis, but we're also offering this in N scale as well. This same car is being offered in N scale, same type of detail as far as the paint, and it's prime for grime, ready for you to weather. And just, these really look good anywhere on your layout or in a train. Some of the examples that they do for the prime for grime, if you look real carefully, and I'm going to see if I can zoom in on this for you. Look at real carefully at the road number here. You'll notice this 6 is a lot brighter than the rest of the number. Just little subtle details like that in prime for grime, which really make this look the part. So a little bit of weathering, and you've got yourself a really convincing veteran of the rails. Here's another version of the Hutchinson Northern, also lettered for ATW. This will be part of the prime for grime as well. And I say it every time, I had nothing to do with this. But interesting story about these Boston and Maine SEICO box cars, they were called Bud cars. Now, I don't mean like the Bud cars that they use for transportation. I'm talking about the cold adult beverage. These were specifically purchased by the Boston and Maine to transport Budweiser. And these were ordered in the early 70s, and they were used right up to and right through the Guilford era of the Boston and Maine. So if you've ever wanted to do a brewery on your layout, here's a great excuse to pick up these cars. We're doing the Ashley Drew and Northern. Really cool car. It's a simple paint scheme, but it really shows up nice. The logos are really familiar logo. This is a 1980s car, but it's got some holdovers from the 70s, and as you can see here, but perfect for any N-scale layout that's set in the 1980s. Now remember, I said we had some modern stuff too. Here's a Canadian Pacific. This one is actually dated into the 2000s, up to 2006. So these box cars aren't gone yet. They're still around. They're still being used. The containers haven't quite taken over yet. And we had to do some Norfolk Western 1970s. These were all over the place, mainly in the Midwest and parts of the East. Rather simple paint scheme, of course, just the black with the stylized N and W, but real common for the paint schemes of its day. And again, available both in HO and N scale. We're talking mainly about the N scale today. So there you go. I mean, a lot of good stuff for both HO and N scale modelers out there today. What you'll need to do is go down to your dealer, or if you shop online, contact your online retailer and tell them what you want. They'll go ahead and pre-order those for you. you've got till the end of the month to do that. And like I said, some of these you don't want to miss out on. You're going to want to get that pre-order in. And it's always easier to pre-order and wait usually about a year. These are hopefully will be in next summer at this time. So now I got one more bit of news to show you guys. Last June, we talked about GP7s, Genesis GP7s, and we were doing some really cool paint schemes. Looks like you guys that did the pre-orders on those, you did a chassis. You're probably going to see those in July sometime. Let me show you one of the first pictures we got of the Genesis GP7 and chassis. There it is. We're estimating late July. Now for today's shout out question, I want to know who knows the answer to this. It's a B&O Jeep 7. The thing that stands out, of course, are those torpedo tubes. We know what that means, but is this locomotive operating long hood forward or short hood forward? Let me see who comes up with the answer first, and then we'll talk about it. So B&O Jeep 7 here, lettered for chassis system. Is it set up for long hood or short hood operation? First one out there. I think, yeah, long hood forward. So you remember a while back we talked about Burlington Northern and their barricade stripes would dictate which end of the locomotive was considered the front. Well, chassis followed suit. They had something similar. Look at the chassis stylized cat. You'll notice it's on the nose of the locomotive. Now, when you see a C&O locomotive or a Western Maryland, it's very common for the chassis logo to be on the short hood. But Baltimore and Ohio was running most of their equipment, and in this case, the GP7, long hood forward. So the chassis was painted on the long hood, and that would tell operators that this is set up for long hood forward. So good job, SB Scott, for getting that out there. And these are going to be coming sometime July. We're saying late July. They might even come sooner. So if you ordered the GP7s, I know I'm excited about the chassis system. I'm excited about the Illinois terminals. We offered the Illinois terminal in 4 different road numbers. Really cool stuff. So if you ordered one of those, you're going to be getting a call from your dealer soon. All right, I've got a little bit of time to take some questions today, and I apologize. I did spend some time out on the virtual railfan cameras, and there's not much going on in the country right now, which is somewhat unfortunate, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to go to Pennsylvania, to the world-famous Horseshoe Curve. And unfortunately, there's not much going on right now, but that could change while we're talking. Questions? We've got time for a few questions, and then we'll wrap this show up. Go ahead and put that into full screen, and let's see if we've got some questions here. Let me see. We've got some good questions. Hugo. Any UPS 53-foot trailers in the works? Not that I'm aware of. Not right now. That doesn't always mean that the developers, always tell me stuff, but you never know what those guys are working at. Let's see. I saw another good question here. Mike wants to know any future Alaska Railroad models. Not in this release, not in the July. But Alaska is one that's always requested, so we watch it. Let's see. I missed. There we go. Bought several of the Athearn N scale 20K tank cars, and they just came 10 minutes ago. They're super cool. Well, I'm glad you like those. Those are cool. I ordered some of those myself for my N scale layout, and they are very nice. I'm very impressed with them. They They track really nice. I think you're going to enjoy those. Oh, Mr. Johnson wants to know when the next run of GP40-2s will be. Now, are you talking about ones that we've already announced, or are you talking about new ones? New ones, stay tuned. We'll probably have some news for you here, not too distant future, that will make you happy if you're asking for new pre-orders. I got time for 2 more questions. Kevin wants to know, Illinois terminal on the list for GP9s? Not right now. We just did the GP7s in the rubber band paint scheme. The GP9s, they'd probably do well, so it's a possibility. Illinois terminal, as small as that line is, does really well. Andrew, I'm going to try to get your question up here. I hope Athearn will do as delivered versions of the AC 4400 CW. Well, as you know, a couple of months ago, we did an announcement that we'll be working on that as a project. As more details are available, we'll definitely let you know on social media, as well as this program here. Let's see. I've got time for 1 more question. So let me see if I can find a good one here. I see all your questions. I'm not ignoring them. I just want to see some good ones. One thing that you can do is you can always watch our social media. We try to update that every day. We try to send you some information. Idaho Rail Fan, I see your comment. There's inevitably, with everything that's involved in the manufacturing process, there are sometimes delays. We try to keep our website up to date. As soon as we get some more concrete information on those dates, we will update our website. So, and that happens sometimes. And sometimes things come earlier than expected. It's just the nature of the beast. Let me see. 1 more question. I'm seeing a lot of guys asking for stuff, but how about a question? Because like I said, if you've got something you want to see designed and built, or roads that you want to see, go ahead and use our product suggestion email. Christopher, here's one. Any ETA for the Western Pacific FP7s? I don't have an actual date for you, but I can tell you they are coming. They're going to be here soon. I would say probably, I think a safe bet would be August, early September. So that was a pre-order that you did last summer. Those should be here, I'd say, anywhere between August to early September. Okay. Well, I think we've got some good questions here. I'll take 1 more. Let's see, from Corey. Compared to other manufacturers, why don't you add spinning bearing caps? Well, we do, actually. The SD60Ms had spinning bearing caps. A lot of the Genesis releases have spinning bearing caps. And as we keep continuing to do refinements and updates to all of our Genesis line locomotives and Genesis 2.0 locomotives, you're going to see that more and more and more. So it's out there. It's out there, and you'll be seeing more of it in the future. Okay. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us today. Sorry we didn't have any trains, but it was pretty much like that across the country. I didn't really see much going on. So hopefully your basement, your model room, your workshop is busier than what's out there in the 1.1 world. But until next Tuesday, we're going to have another Train Tuesday next week. We'll talk about some other products from the July release. Remember, you've got till Friday, July 30th to get those pre-orders to your dealer. And keep track on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and also go on over to YouTube. Give us a like, subscribe, and you can always see these videos later. And until next time, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, do some modeling, and above all, high greens, everybody. Take care.